Hello guys, I hope everybody's having a wonderful day. So in today's lesson, we're going to be talking about neurons, whether that be the function of each particular section of each neuron, or how messages are communicated from one neuron to the next. Okay, so let's get started. So what exactly are neurons? Well, neurons are key parts of the brain. They are responsible for being information messengers. As well, they use electrical impulses and chemical signals to transfer information between different areas of the brain. As well, another function that the neuron has is they use motor commands for our muscles. So now that we have a general understanding of what a neuron is, we can get into some functions and some aspects of the neuron. So starting off, we have what's referred to as dendrites. These are fibrous roots that come out of the cell body. The cell body we'll get into later. The dendrites receive and process signals from axons, which we'll get into later as well, from other neurons. As well, they receive chemical messengers from other neurons as well. So moving on, we have what's called the cell body, also known as the soma. This is the neuron's core. They're responsible for carrying genetic information, as well as maintains the neuron structure, provides energy, and collects neural impulses. And similar to nucleuses that you learn in biology, for example, these contain a nucleus, and nucleuses have very special and structured organelles. As you can see from this image presented, this is the nucleus. The nucleus is at the center of the cell body. The nucleus is responsible for controlling the entire neuron and integrating and transmitting information received from the nervous system. And finally, in the top part of our neuron, we have what's referred to as the cell membrane. The cell membrane forms the border of the neuron, as mentioned earlier, and acts to control the movement of substances that come in and out of the cell. As well, they signal proteins that respond to the binding of a specific substance by sending messages into the cell to activate particular cellular mechanisms. Okay guys, so that's all the functions of the top part of the neuron. Now let's move on to the bottom section of the neuron. So let's now move on to the axon. So what is the axon? Well, as you could see from this video, the axon is a sort of long tail-like structure. It joins in with the cell body, which is referred to as the axon hillock, the sort of bonding between the two. Many axons are insulated with a sort of fatty substance, which are referred to as myelin. Axons conduct an electrical impulses via the terminal branches, which we'll show in just one moment. So now let's move on to what's referred to as the node of Ranvier. They're small gaps that are located within the myelin shield. The myelin shield is a layer of fatty tissue that covers the axon. This ensures that the signal gets there fast with less resistance. As well, it allows for the electrical impulses to transmit quickly and effectively along the nerve cells. Now let's move on to the terminal branches. They are also referred to as terminal buttons. These convert the impulses into chemical messages. As well, the terminal branches are where the information leaves the neuron and is passed to the dendrites, as we mentioned earlier, to the next neuron. And now that we finished discussing each function of each part of the neuron, we will now get into these messages and how they are communicated from one neuron to the next. Hi guys, so now we're going to talk about how messages are communicated from one neuron to the next. So first we have what's referred to as the resting potential. This potential is very negatively charged inside of the axon at this point. It sits about 70 millivolts. And a millivolt, for reference, is about 1,000 of a volt. So in this scenario, it's about negative 70,000 millivolts. 1,000. I'm so sorry. Negative 170,000 of a volt. So next we move on to action potential. This is when it's stimulated with a significant amount of energy. The neurons are called into action, then the neurons fire an electrical impulse down the axon. The electrical fire will then create that voltage that is needed for the action, which is the capacity to communicate with the community with the other neurons. And this is a brief electrical charge which is caused by change in currents. Next, we have what's referred to as ion channels. These are when the neurons sufficiently stimulate a neuron's dendrites, which is what we referred to earlier. Ion channels allow positive charged sodium and A+ into the neuron. As these positively charged ions go into the neuron, they set down the axon chain, causing more of the channels to open as a result. Then the ion channels create large proteins, which can provide a large and safe passage across. Next, we have depolarization. This process is when we move from the resting potential and it becomes 0, which is better than the negative 70 that we had at the resting phase. It becomes less negative, and the opening channels allow that positive ions flow into the cell, which cause depolarization as a result. Now we have what's referred to as repolarization. This is the process in which the voltage-gated potassium ions channels open up, which lets the potassium ions flow out in an attempt to rebalance charges. Next, we have what's referred to as the refractory period. This cannot respond to other stimuli no matter how strong. As well, in the refractory period, it helps to prevent signals from traveling into directions down axon at once. And the voltage threshold, it sits about negative 50 millivolts at this point. And ion channels open rapidly. It becomes positive as it passes 0. And as well, when the depolarization, as which we mentioned earlier, reaches negative 55 millivolts, a neuron will fire an action potential as a result. Okay guys, now that we went over everything today, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and if there's any questions in regards to my video today, you could definitely ask them in the discussion post today. You guys have a wonderful day. Thank you.